On November 29th, the alert level was raised that Colombia's Purace volcano as both eruptive and seismic activity intensified, rising from yellow to orange. This means it actively has the highest alert level of any volcano in the country. And now, per a statement from the nation's geological agency, the volcano could actively be theoretically building towards a significant eruption. While they did not specify the fine details of what they meant by this, I interpret to mean powerful blasts that have historically marked the volcano's largest eruptions, occurring in 1849, 1869, and 1885. However, how unlikely or likely such a major eruption could be was not stated, but for now I am interpreting the chance to be quite unlikely. Regardless, due to the potential chance, at this time no one should go near the summit craters of Puracé, especially this crater I have highlighted. 2 prior eruptions from this volcano have resulted in fatalities, both presumably due to the ejection of ballistic fragments in powerful volcanic blasts that fell up to several kilometers distant. While the specifics on how far those fragments went is uncertain, in 1885 or 1949, government modeling data suggests fragments of up to 20 centimeters in size, which I might note could cause a casualty upon striking a person, could be hurled as much as 5 kilometers or 3.1 miles away. However, in my opinion, I personally recommend staying at least 6.5 kilometers distant. But let's assume the now presumably unlikely worst-case scenario does happen. What should you do if you are a nearby resident? A major eruption would most likely but not certainly create an audible explosion which could be accompanied by volcanic lightning. If this happened during the daytime, an unusually high eruption plume, perhaps towering to as much as 10 kilometers or about 32,800 feet above its summit, could be generated. Such a height is 6 to 20 times its typical eruption heights, so if you have lived nearby for a long time, the difference should be fairly obvious. If this were to occur, in my opinion, you'd want to avoid any low points that river channels, streams, or drainages take within a 10-kilometer radius of the volcano, as that marks the theoretical maximum distance a several hundred degrees pyroclastic flow or surge could take. And I am specifically referring to areas in or near these 4 drainages. But let's say you unfortunately found yourself in one of these areas at the time of a purely hypothetical, albeit unlikely, major eruption. What you'd want to then do is get to high ground, moving away from the volcano and any nearby riverbeds that descend from Puracé's summit. And now the good news. In theory, such a major explosion shouldn't occur without warning, although we do not know how long the time will take between the hypothetical start of an escalation in activity and a major explosion. Currently, the volcano's activity seemingly isn't giving off any signs that would prompt the local geological agency to say that a major explosion is truly imminent. Now, that was a big hypothetical. I am not trying to worry anyone too much, but I thought it was worth noting since a worst-case scenario, that being an eventual VEI-3 explosive eruption for now, is deemed to be in the realm of possibility. Puracé is a more than 15,000-foot-tall volcano which tends to erupt multiple times across several year-long time spans, only to become mostly quiet for multiple years to decades at a time. Puracé's last such mostly quiet period lasted for several decades and ended in 2022. Since then, Puracé has erupted 4 times, 3 of which involved weak, typically less than 1 kilometer high eruption plumes, and 1 eruption that caused some trace ash to fall at further away communities and involved a 1.5 kilometer high plume. Puracé's recent activity began all the way back at the end of September when increased degassing started. Continuous volcanic tremor was then detected on November 19th, and then on November 23rd, volcanic seismic activity further changed, indicating the undeniable movement of magma underground. Puracé then erupted with a minor ash plume on November 25th and has been intermittently erupting with weak ash plumes ever since. These have caused some trace ash to fall on certain nearby communities, but didn't seem to be anything more than a slight annoyance. More eruptions are likely to occur in the next week, perhaps even with the possibility for some ejected lava bombs to be thrown. However, the most likely outcome of Puracé's current state is more fairly and small, harmless eruptions confined to its summit area. Stay tuned for more updates. As a final note, I would like to thank my new patron Larry Gilman for supporting my work.